Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The massive ship moved quietly through deep space, far from Earth and farther still from any known alien worlds. The Third Fleet had been on patrol for 3 months now, checking the outer edges of human space for any signs of trouble. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep from control stations. Jake liked these peaceful moments. They were rare in his line of work. As the captain of humanity's most powerful warship, he spent most of his time preparing for fights that might never come. Lisa Rodriguez sat at the communication station, her headset on as she monitored radio signals from across the galaxy. She was good at her job, maybe the best communications officer in the fleet. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls as she filtered through the noise of space, looking for anything important. Suddenly, Lisa sat up straight. Her face went pale as she pressed her headset closer to her ears. She turned to look at Jake with wide eyes. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," she said. "It's not human, but it's definitely a distress signal." Jake walked over to her station. "Can you clean it up? Make it clearer." Lisa's fingers flew over her controls. The bridge speakers crackled to life, filled with static and strange sounds. Then a voice came through, speaking in broken English with an accent unlike anything Jake had ever heard. "Please, anyone who can hear this message, we need help. This is Captain Velanara of the Veltar Trading Convoy. We are under attack by Corvan warships near the Epsilon sector. Our shields are failing. Our weapons cannot stop them. They are destroying our ships and killing our people." The bridge crew exchanged looks. This was the first time any of them had heard an alien speak. The voice continued, desperate and afraid. "We know of the humans, the ones from the Deathworld, called Earth. You are the only ones who might be able to fight the Corvan Empire. They are too strong for us. Please, if any human ships can hear this, we beg you to help us. The Corvan are killing everyone, even the children in the escape pods." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Killing children was something no decent person could ignore. He looked around at his crew and saw the same anger on their faces. "Sir," Lisa said, "I'm reading 17 Corvan ships attacking 8 Veltar. Cargo vessels. The aliens don't stand a chance." Jake opened the channel to Admiral Helen Brooks on the command ship. Her face appeared on the main screen moments later. She was an older woman with gray hair and hard eyes, someone who had fought in every major human conflict for the past 20 years. "Admiral, did you hear that transmission?" Jake asked. "I did, Captain. What's your assessment?" 17 enemy ships attacking civilian targets. The aliens are outgunned and asking for our help." Admiral Brooks was quiet for a moment, thinking. Jake knew she was weighing the risks. They were far from human space, facing an unknown enemy with unknown capabilities. But they were also the only hope those alien civilians had. "Captain Morrison, you have authorization to deploy the Third Fleet. Save those people." Jake smiled. He had hoped she would say that. "Yes, Admiral. All ships, prepare for combat jump. We leave in 10 minutes. The USS Defiance came alive with activity. Crew members ran to their battle stations. Weapon systems powered up with a deep humming sound. The ship's massive engines began to charge for the jump to the Epsilon sector. Chief Engineer Carlos Martinez called from the engine room. "Captain, jump drive is ready. But I have to warn you, we don't know what we're jumping into. These Corvan could have technology we've never seen before." "Understood, Carlos. But we can't leave those people to die." Jake looked at the tactical display showing the 12 ships of the Third Fleet. Each one was a powerful warship, built by humans who had learned to fight on a world that tried to kill them every day. Earth was what the aliens called a death world, a planet so dangerous that most alien species would die within hours of landing on it. Humans had evolved on a world with deadly storms, poisonous creatures, and gravity that would crush most aliens. They had learned to be tough, to fight against impossible odds, and to never give up. Now those same qualities might be the only thing that could save the Veltar. "All ships report ready for jump, Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Amy Chun. From the tactical station, Jake sat down in his command chair and gripped the armrests. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison. We're about to face an enemy we know nothing about. But they're attacking innocent people, and that's something we can't allow. Remember your training. Remember what it means to be human. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Execute." The stars stretched into lines of light as the Third Fleet jumped through space, racing toward a battle that would change everything. In the communications room, Lisa continued to monitor the alien distress calls, listening to the fear and desperation in their voices. The Veltar had called humans Deathworlders because they came from a planet that should have killed them. They had no idea that surviving on such a world had made humans into something the galaxy had never seen before. Warriors who would fight anyone, anywhere, to protect the innocent Dot. As the fleet traveled through the jump, Jake thought about what they might find when they arrived. The Corvan Empire had never fought humans before. They probably expected an easy victory against primitives from a backwater world. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones who have nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The jump would take 6 hours. 6 hours to prepare for a battle that would introduce humanity to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. The Third Fleet dropped out of jump space into chaos. Jake Morrison watched the main screen as burning alien ships drifted through space like broken toys. The Veltar cargo vessels were huge but slow, built for carrying goods across the galaxy, not for fighting wars. Several were already destroyed, their metal hulls torn open and spilling their contents into the void. "Captain, I count 17 Corvan warships," reported Lieutenant Commander Amy Chun from the tactical station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see the concern in her eyes. "They're bigger than our ships and their energy readings are off the charts." The Corvan vessels were beautiful in a deadly way. They looked like silver daggers floating through space, their surfaces smooth and perfect. Blue energy shields surrounded each ship, making them glow like dangerous jewels. Jake had never seen anything like them. "Sir, they're firing on escape." "Pods," Lisa Rodriguez said from communications, her voice tight with anger. "The Veltar are trying to evacuate their people, but the Corvan are shooting the lifeboats." Jake felt his jaw clench. Attacking civilians was bad enough, but killing people trying to escape was the act of monsters. He opened a channel to all ships in the fleet. "All vessels, this is Captain Morrison. The enemy is committing war crimes. We're going to stop them. Now." Captain Steve Parker's face appeared on a side screen. He commanded the USS Retribution, the second most powerful ship in the fleet. "Jake, those energy shields look tough. Our weapons might not get through." "Then we'll get close enough to make sure they do," Jake replied. Amy Chun looked up from her tactical display. "Captain, normal combat doctrine says we should stay at long range and test their defenses first. Those ships outgun us by a lot." Jake smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Amy, since when do humans follow normal combat doctrine?" "The bridge." Crew understood. Humans had never fought fair. On Earth, they had learned to survive by being faster, meaner, and more willing to take risks than anything else on their planet. Now they would bring those lessons to space. "All ships, attack formation Alpha. We're going straight at them." The Third Fleet changed course, all 12 ships turning toward the Corvan vessels like wolves closing in on prey. The alien warships seemed surprised by the direct approach. They had been expecting the humans to stay far away and trade long-range fire, like civilized species did. The Corvan ships opened fire first. Bright blue energy beams cut through space, striking the human vessels. The USS Defiance shook as the alien weapons hit its armor plating. Sparks flew from control panels, but the ship kept moving forward. "Shields are holding," Carlos Martinez reported from engineering. "But their weapons are strong. We can't take much more of this." "We won't have to," Jake said. "All ships, prepare nuclear missiles. Target their shield generators." The Corvin had never faced nuclear weapons before. Most civilized species considered them too dangerous and messy to use in space combat. But humans had been building better and more powerful nuclear bombs for centuries. They knew how to make them work. Dozens of missiles streaked from the human ships toward the Corvin fleet. The aliens tried to shoot them down with their energy weapons, but there were too many coming too fast. The first nuclear explosions lit up space like tiny suns. The beautiful blue shields around the Corvin ships flickered and went out. Without their energy protection, the alien vessels suddenly looked fragile. "Now, all weapons, fire everything," Jake shouted. The human ships unleashed hell. Mass driver cannons fired steel projectiles at incredible speeds. Plasma weapons sent streams of superheated gas toward the enemy. Laser batteries cut through alien armor like it was paper. The Corvin ships tried to retreat, but they had made a mistake. They had let the humans get too close. Danny Shaw led a squadron of human fighter craft that swarmed around the alien vessels like angry bees. The small, fast ships got in close where the big guns couldn't target them. "This is Shaw," Danny's voice came over the radio. "I'm seeing weak points in their armor. The joints where their hull sections meet are vulnerable." The fighters concentrated their fire on those weak spots, while the big ships hammered the Corvin vessels with everything they had. One alien ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, then another. The remaining Corvin ships began to panic. Jake watched as Captain Parker deliberately rammed the USS Retribution into a Corvin vessel. The collision destroyed both ships, but Parker had aimed for the alien command vessel. With their leader gone, the remaining Corvin ships lost coordination. "Captain, 3 Corvin ships are trying to escape," Amy reported. "Let them go," Jake said. "They can tell their friends what happens when you mess with humans." The battle was over in less than 20 minutes. 14 Corvin ships were destroyed or disabled. The survivors fled toward their own territory, probably wondering what kind of crazy species they had just encountered. Lisa opened a channel to the surviving Veltar ships. "This is the human fleet. Is anyone hurt? Do you need medical assistance?" A weak voice answered in broken English. "Thank you, humans. Thank you for saving us. We had heard stories of the Deathworlders, but we never believed anyone could fight like that." Jake looked around at his bridge crew. They were all grinning despite the damage to their ship. They had just won humanity's first major space battle against an advanced alien species, and they had done it by being exactly what Earth had made them, survivors who never gave up. "Set course for the Veltar homeworld," Jake ordered. "We need to make sure they get home safely. And I have a feeling this fight is just the beginning." News of the human victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On the Corvin homeworld, Supreme Commander Zektar stared at the battle reports with disbelief. 17 of his best warships had been destroyed by 12 primitive vessels from a species that had only recently discovered space travel. "This cannot be accurate," Zektar said to his intelligence officer. "These humans should not have been able to win." Intelligence Officer Thexvel pulled up the combat footage on the main display. "Sir, I have reviewed the data multiple times. The humans used tactics we have never seen before. They attacked directly into our weapons fire. They used nuclear explosives in space combat. One of their captains deliberately crashed his ship into ours." Zektar watched the video of the USS Retribution ramming into the Corvin command ship. It made no sense to him. No civilized species would sacrifice a valuable warship and crew for a tactical advantage. It was wasteful and barbaric. "What kind Of species fights like this? He asked. According to our files, they come from what the galaxy calls a Deathworld. Their planet should have killed them, but instead it made them into something dangerous. Sir, I believe we have seriously underestimated these humans. Meanwhile, on the USS Defiance, Dr. Rachel Williams was learning about galactic warfare from the Veltar survivors they had rescued. The alien Captain Velinara sat across from her in the ship's medical bay. His blue skin was pale from injury, but his large eyes were bright with curiosity. Dr. Williams, may I ask you something? Velinara said in his careful English. Of course, Captain. Why did your Captain Parker destroy his own ship? In all our wars, we have never seen such a thing. It seems like madness. Rachel thought about how to explain it. On Earth, we have a saying. Sometimes you have to sacrifice one to save many. Captain Parker knew that destroying the Corvin command ship would save more lives in the long run. Velinara's eyes went wide. But the cost. His crew, his ship. How can you calculate such things? We don't calculate them, Rachel said. We feel them. When someone threatens innocent people, we get angry. When we get angry, we fight. When we fight, we don't think about the cost until after we win. The alien captain was quiet for a long moment. This is why the galaxy fears your kind. You are not rational in the way we understand it. Rachel smiled sadly. Earth taught us that being rational doesn't help when a hurricane is trying to kill you. Sometimes survival means doing whatever it takes. On the bridge, Jake Morrison was developing new battle plans with his officers. The victory had taught them important lessons about fighting advanced alien species. The Corvin expected us to fight like other galactic species, Jake said. Long range, lots of rules, very polite. They weren't ready for us to charge straight at them. Amy Chun nodded. Their energy shields were designed to stop the weapons other aliens use. But they had never seen nuclear missiles or mass drivers before. That's our advantage, Jake said. We don't fight the way they expect. We use weapons they think are too primitive. We take risks they think are crazy. Lisa Rodriguez looked up from her station. Sir, I'm intercepting Corvin military communications. They're calling us the mad ones from the Death Star. They're actually afraid of us. Jake felt a cold satisfaction. Fear was a weapon, and now the Corvin knew that humans were something to be feared. We need to make this official, he said. Amy, I want you to write down everything we learned from this battle. Call it the Deathworld Doctrine. Other human commanders need to know how to fight aliens. Over the next few days, Amy worked with the other officers to create the new fighting manual. The Deathworld Doctrine had simple rules. Get close to the enemy. Use whatever works, even if it seems crazy. Don't follow their rules. Make them fight. On human terms. Never surrender. Back on the Corvin homeworld, Vexville continued studying the humans. He had obtained more data from other species who had encountered them. The picture he was building terrified him. Sir, he reported to Zektar, I have learned disturbing things about these humans. They do not just come from a dangerous planet. They have turned that danger into a way of thinking. Explain. Every human child grows up learning to fight against impossible odds. They face deadly storms, poisonous animals, and gravity that would crush most species. But instead of dying, they adapt. They become stronger. They learn to use their environment as a weapon. Zektar felt a chill, and now they are bringing that thinking to space. Yes, sir, they see every asteroid as a potential missile. Every damaged ship as a potential bomb. Every battle as a chance to learn something new about killing their enemies. The Supreme Commander looked at the tactical display showing Corvin territory. How many ships do we have in our main fleet? 243, sir. And how many human ships are there? Vexville checked his data. Intelligence estimates 43 vessels in their main battle fleet, Then we will crush them with superior numbers. But Thexvel shook his head. Sir, I don't think numbers will matter. These humans fight as if retreat is not an option. They fight as if dying in battle is an honor. They fight as if every ship they lose only makes them angrier. Zektar stared at the star charts. Somewhere out there, the humans were preparing for war. They had saved the Veltar and made the Corvin Empire look weak. Other species would start to think the mighty Corvin could be beaten. Prepare the entire fleet, he ordered. We will show the galaxy that the Corvin Empire does not bow to Deathworld savages. But as he gave the order, Zektar felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. He felt doubt and fear. The Corvin fleet arrived at the Veltar homeworld like a storm of silver and blue light. 243 warships dropped out of jump space in perfect formation, their energy shields glowing bright against the darkness. Supreme Commander. Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the planet below. Soon, both the aliens and their human protectors would be destroyed. Sir, I'm detecting human ships in orbit around the planet, reported his sensor officer. 43 vessels, just as intelligence predicted. Zektar smiled. The humans had brought their entire fleet to defend this worthless world. It would make destroying them easier. Open a channel to all ships. Begin the attack. On the USS Defiance, Jake Morrison watched the massive alien fleet approach. The Corvin had brought everything they had. This would be the biggest space battle in human history. Captain, we're outnumbered 6-1, Amy Chun reported from the tactical station. Then we'll just have to make every shot count, Jake replied. He opened a channel to Admiral Helen Brooks on the USS Thunderstrike, the fleet's newest and most powerful ship. Admiral, your orders? Helen Brooks had gray hair and hard eyes that had seen too many battles. She looked at the approaching enemy fleet and made her decision. All ships, battle formation Delta. We're going to hit them where they don't expect it. The human fleet split into 3 groups. One group, led by Jake, would attack the Corvin Center. Another group, led by Captain Steve Parker and his new ship, would hit the left flank. Admiral Brooks would take the third group around behind the enemy. Remember, Brooks said over the communications channel, they expect us to fight like civilized people. They're about to learn that humans don't know how to be civilized. The battle began with the Corvin firing their energy weapons from long range. Blue beams of light cut through space, striking human ships. The USS Defiance shook as alien weapons hit its armor. Shields holding. Carlos Martinez reported from engineering. But they're hitting us hard, Captain. Not for long, Jake said. He opened a channel to Lisa Rodriguez in communications. Lisa, I want you to broadcast something on all frequencies. Let every ship in the Corvin fleet hear it. What should I broadcast, sir? Jake grinned. Everything. Our battle songs, our radio chatter, our damage reports. Let them hear what humans sound like when they're fighting for their lives. Lisa's fingers flew over her controls. Suddenly, every Corvin ship was hearing human voices. They heard Jake laughing as his ship was hit by enemy fire. They heard crew members singing old Earth songs while they repaired battle damage. They heard Captain Parker joking with his gunners as they loaded nuclear missiles. The effect on the Corvin was immediate. They had never heard an enemy laugh while under attack. They had never faced opponents who sang while their ships were being destroyed. It was terrifying and impossible to understand. What is wrong with these creatures? Zektar demanded. They should be afraid. They should be trying to surrender. Sir, his communications officer said with fear in his voice, I'm monitoring their transmissions. One of their captains just said he's going to ram his damaged ship into our command vessel. That's impossible. No one would throw away their life like that. But Captain Steve Parker was already doing exactly that. His ship, the USS Retribution II, had taken heavy damage from Corvin weapons. Instead of retreating, He aimed his ship directly at the nearest Corvin battleship. "All crew to escape pods," Parker ordered. "I'm going to show these aliens what happens when you mess with humans." Parker stayed on the bridge as his crew evacuated. He pushed his ship's engines to maximum power and flew straight at the enemy vessel. The Corvin ship tried to move out of the way, but it was too late. The collision was spectacular. The USS Retribution II crashed into the Corvin battleship, and both ships exploded in a ball of fire that lit up space for miles. The explosion was so bright that it temporarily blinded sensors on both sides, but the explosion did more than destroy two ships. It created a gap in the Corvin formation that Admiral Brooks exploited ruthlessly. Her group of ships punched through the opening and got behind the main enemy fleet. "All ships, target their engines," Brooks ordered. "Let's see how tough they are when they can't run away." The human ships opened fire on the Corvin vessels from behind. Nuclear missiles and mass driver rounds tore through alien armor. Without their rear shields, the Corvin ships were vulnerable. Amy Chun coordinated with the Veltar defense platforms orbiting the planet. The aliens had weak weapons, but they were very accurate. She used their precise fire to guide human missiles to their targets. "Corvin ship at grid 7-4, your weapons are locked on target," Amy told the Veltar gunners. "Confirmed, human ship, firing now." The Veltar energy beam struck the Corvin vessel's shield generator. A moment later, 3 human nuclear missiles hit the same spot. The alien ship broke apart under the combined attack. Danny Shaw led his fighter squadron through the chaos of the main battle. The small human ships were too fast and too small for the big Corvin weapons to hit effectively. They swarmed around the alien vessels like angry insects. "This is Shaw," he reported over the radio. "I'm seeing something interesting. When we get close to their ships, the Corvin gunners stop firing. They're afraid of hitting their own vessels." Jake understood immediately. The Corvin were used to fighting at long range where there was no risk of friendly fire. But humans specialized in close-quarters combat where such concerns didn't matter. "All ships, get in close," Jake ordered. "Make them choose between shooting us and shooting their own people." The human fleet closed with the Corvin vessels at point-blank range. The aliens found themselves unable to use their most powerful weapons without risking their own ships. Meanwhile, human weapons had no such limitation. The tide of battle turned quickly after that. Corvin ships began to retreat, but Admiral Brooks had positioned her group to block their escape routes. The aliens were trapped between the human fleet and their own fear. Zektar watched his fleet being torn apart by an enemy that should have been easy to defeat. These humans fought like demons, laughing at death and turning every disadvantage into a weapon. "Sir, we've lost over half our ships," his tactical officer reported. "The fleet is requesting permission to withdraw." Zektar looked at the tactical display. The humans had lost ships too, but they kept fighting as if losing was impossible. He had never seen anything like it. "Signal all ships," he said finally. "Full retreat. We cannot win this battle." The surviving Corvin vessels fled toward their own territory, leaving behind a graveyard of destroyed ships. The humans had won again, but the cost had been high. Admiral Brooks had sacrificed her ship to break the enemy formation, following Captain Parker's example. Jake Morrison was now the senior officer in the fleet. As he looked at the wreckage around the Veltar homeworld, he knew this victory would change everything. The galaxy would learn that humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were something far more dangerous. They were survivors who had learned to turn their world's cruelty into strength. And now that strength belonged to anyone who needed protection from bullies. 3 days after the Great Battle, a Corvin messenger ship arrived at the Veltar homeworld, flying a white flag of surrender. Jake Morrison, now the fleet admiral after the loss of Admiral Brooks, received the alien delegation aboard the USS Defiance. Supreme Commander Zektar himself came to negotiate. The proud Corvan leader looked older than his years as he stood in the human ship's conference room. His silver uniform was perfect, but his eyes showed the weight of defeat. "Admiral Morrison," Zektar began, "the Corvan Empire requests a ceasefire. We wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict." Jake sat across from the alien commander, flanked by Amy Chun and Dr. Rachel Williams. Behind them stood two human Marines, their weapons visible but not threatening. The message was clear without words. "Before we talk about peace," Jake said, "let's talk about justice. Your ships killed innocent civilians. You attacked escape pods full of children. Those crimes have to be answered for." Zektar's face showed surprise. Most species would simply accept surrender and move on. But humans, it seemed, cared about more than just winning battles. "What do you want from us?" The Corvan commander asked. Jake pulled out a datapad with his terms written on it. "Complete withdrawal from all Veltar territory. Full reparations for every civilian ship you destroyed. Formal recognition of human space boundaries. And one more thing." "What is that?" "You're going to help us spread the word to other species. That humans don't like bullies. Anyone who attacks innocent people will have to deal with us." Zektar stared at the human admiral. "You are demanding that we help you become the police force of the galaxy?" "No," Jake said. "We're telling you to help us teach other species how to defend themselves. The age of the strong picking on the weak is over." Dr. Rachel Williams had been working with the Veltar scientists for weeks, learning about galactic politics. Now she understood why the Corvan surrender was so important. "Admiral," she said quietly, "Captain Velinara wants to speak with you." The Veltar captain entered the room, his blue skin still showing scars from the battle. But his large eyes were bright with hope for the first time since Jake had met him. "Admiral Morrison," Velinara said, "my people want to offer you something. Full trading rights with our species, access to our technology, partnership in exploring the galaxy." Jake nodded. "We accept, Captain, but we want something else too." "What is that?" "We want to teach your people how to fight back. No one should have to face bullies alone." Over the following months, news of the human victory spread throughout the galaxy. The story grew with each telling, but the core facts remained the same. A small fleet of ships from a Deathworld had defeated the mighty Corvan Empire through sheer determination and unconventional tactics. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Species that had been conquered by the Corvan for decades suddenly began fighting back. Rebel groups formed on occupied worlds. Resistance movements started using human weapons and tactics. Danny Shaw found himself busier than ever, but not flying combat missions. Instead, he was teaching alien pilots how to fight like humans. In a training facility on the Veltar homeworld, he worked with crews from a dozen different species. "The key is not to think too much," Danny told a group of insectoid pilots from the Crush system. "When you see an enemy, you attack. You don't calculate odds or worry about proper formation. You just fight." One of the Crush pilots raised a clawed hand. "But Instructor Shaw, what if we are outnumbered?" Danny grinned. "Then you fight harder. My people have a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." The aliens looked confused until their translator explained the meaning. Then they began to understand what made humans so dangerous in combat. Chief Engineer Carlos Martinez was equally busy retrofitting alien ships with human weapons. The Veltar had excellent manufacturing capabilities, but had never thought to weaponize their technology. Now they were building fusion missiles and mass driver cannons under human guidance. "The beautiful thing about human weapons," Carlos explained, to a Veltar engineer, "is that they're simple. Point them at your enemy and pull the trigger. No fancy energy matrices or harmonic frequencies, just good old-fashioned physics." The Corvan Empire tried to maintain control over their territory, but it was becoming impossible. Every month brought news of another successful rebellion. Species that had accepted occupation for generations were suddenly fighting back with weapons and tactics they had learned from human advisors. Jake received regular reports from across the galaxy. The Zephyr Rebellion had destroyed 3 Corvan patrol fleets. The mineral worlds had declared independence and were mining asteroids to make kinetic weapons. Even the peaceful healers had started using medical knowledge to create non-lethal weapons that left Corvan soldiers helpless but alive. "Sir," Amy Chun reported during one of their weekly staff meetings, "the Corvan are requesting formal peace negotiations. They want to end all hostilities and recognize the independence of every species in their former empire." Jake smiled. "Set up the meeting, but this time we negotiate on our terms." The final peace treaty was signed aboard the USS Defiance in orbit around Earth. Representatives from 50 different species came to witness the ceremony. The Corvan Empire agreed to become a constitutional republic with elected leaders instead of military dictators. But the most important part of the treaty was the Mutual Defense Clause. Any species that signed the agreement would receive protection from human forces if they were attacked by an aggressor. In return, they would help defend others who needed it. Dr. Rachel Williams watched the signing ceremony from the observation deck. Captain Velinara stood beside her, his people finally free from fear for the first time in decades. "Dr. Williams," he said, "may I ask you something?" "Of course." "When your people first heard our distress call, did you know this would happen? Did you plan to change the galaxy?" Rachel thought about the question. "No, Captain. We just heard people in trouble and decided to help. That's what humans do. Even when it means risking everything, especially then." Jake made the final entry in his Admiral's log that night. He thought about Admiral Brooks and Captain Parker, who had given their lives to protect people they had never met. He thought about the thousands of species across the galaxy who were now free to live without fear. "Today marks the end of the Corvan War and the beginning of something new," he dictated. "We learned that being from a death world doesn't make us monsters. It makes us the galaxy's immune system. When bullies try to hurt innocent people, they have to deal with us." He paused, looking out at the stars through his cabin window. Somewhere out there, human advisors were teaching aliens how to defend themselves. Human engineers were building weapons for species that had never known how to fight back. Human pilots were showing others that courage could overcome any odds. We came to the stars not as conquerors, but as protectors. We brought with us the hard lessons of a world that tried to kill us every day. Now those lessons belong to anyone who needs them. The galaxy is safer tonight, because sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones who refuse to let evil win. Jake closed the log and smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new species to meet, and new problems to solve. But tonight, for the first time since leaving Earth, the galaxy was at peace. And it would stay that way as long as humans were around to make sure bullies faced consequences for their actions.